Okay then, let's get into it. Let's unpack this listener's response. The question was, in your opinion, what are some disadvantages of using public transportation?
Public transportation have several advantages, but also it has disadvantages, such as its cost. It's not cheap, so that is one of disadvantage, and sometimes it might cause some accident, so it might be one of risk. And lastly, sometimes too many people using that transportation, so crowded, and that environment might cause stress for us. So crowdiness also some kind of disadvantages.
Right. So first off, let's talk about what worked. What was good here? Well, the listener definitely provided a structure. They mentioned more than one disadvantage, right? Cost, accidents, crowding. And they did try using linking words, like, but also, and lastly, to kind of signpost their points. And that's really key. It shows an attempt at organization, which is a really solid foundation to start from.
Okay, so a decent structure, an attempt at linking. That's the positive side. But now this is where it gets interesting for improvement, right? Where are the areas that need, let's say, a bit more work?
Yeah, the main things really circle back to precision and fluency. Grammar is a big one. Specifically, article use, a and they. So phrases like some accident in English, we naturally say an accident if it's one instance, or maybe the risk of accidents if talking generally. And its cost, while not strictly wrong, the cost often sounds more natural when introducing it as a general concept. Getting those small words right, it really it makes a huge difference to sounding more natural and precise.
Okay, so articles, that's a common sticking point, I find. What else?
Vocabulary is another area. Some of the phrasing feels a little awkward, like crowdedness, also some kind of disadvantages. That's understandable, but not how a native speaker would likely phrase it. You might say overcrowding is also a disadvantage, or the fact that it gets crowded is another disadvantage. Some kind of disadvantage is also a bit vague.
Right, a bit clunky.
Exactly. And tied into that is some repetition and redundancy. Using so repeatedly as a connector, so that it's one, so that might be one. So crowded, so crowdedness, it makes the speech feel a little simplistic. And vague terms like that environment could be more specific. What environment? The crowded bus, the stressful station. And probably most importantly for higher bands, the points are listed, but they aren't really explained or developed. They just sort of sit there. Okay, that makes sense. Listing versus developing. So if someone is aiming higher, maybe band 7 or above, how do you take this feedback and turn it into a response that actually scores better? Could you maybe show us how this answer could be? Or fine. Building on those initial strengths. Absolutely. Let's try to build that band 7 plus response. It's about adding that precision and development we talked about. So it might sound something more like this. Well, while public transportation definitely has its uses, it does come with a few drawbacks. Firstly, in some cities, the actual cost of tickets can be surprisingly high, especially if you're traveling longer distances or need to use it frequently. That can make it less economical than you'd think for a daily commute.
Oh, okay. See how you added that bit about the daily commute? That's the development.
Exactly. Then, secondly, although it's generally safe, accidents can happen, which understandably might make some passengers feel a bit unsafe, even if serious incidents are, thankfully, quite rare. And lastly, a major issue is that public transport often gets extremely overcrowded, particularly during rush hours. This can make the journey really uncomfortable and pretty stressful for passengers. So these kinds of issues, they can certainly discourage people from relying on it regularly.
Wow, okay. The difference is really clear there. It flows better. The points are explained. It just sounds more convincing. What about the vocabulary in that example? Are there specific words listeners should maybe note down?
Definitely. Some useful ones from that example would be drawbacks, just a good synonym for disadvantages. Sounds a bit more formal, maybe. Cost of tickets or ticket prices, more specific than just cost. Frequent travel, clear and concise. Economical relates to cost effectiveness. Occur, a slightly more formal verb for happen. Unsafe, direct and clear. Overcrowded, the standard term, much better than crowdedness. Uncomfortable and stressful, good adjectives to describe the feeling. And discourage, meaning to make someone less likely to do something. Using these more precise terms, it really elevates the answer.
That's helpful. So this really brings up a key question, I think. How does a typical beginner's answer, like the first one, really compare side by side with an advanced one, like your Band 7 plus example, across those main IELTS criteria?
Okay, good question. Let's break it down simply. Vocabulary. The beginner answer uses basic words, maybe some awkward phrasing like crowdedness. The advanced answer uses more precise terms like drawbacks, economical, overcrowded, discourage, much more range, grammar. The beginner might have errors, especially with articles, some accident, or simple sentence structures often linked by so. The advanced answer shows accurate grammar, correct article use, and more varied sentence structures, some simple, some more complex, fluency and coherence. The beginner answer might sound a bit hesitant, maybe repetitive with linking words. The advanced answer flows more smoothly, uses transition words effectively, firstly, secondly, lastly, also, however, and connects ideas logically. Task response development. This is crucial. The beginner answer lists points but doesn't explain why they are disadvantages. The advanced answer develops each point with a brief explanation or example, like explaining why high cost is bad, less economical for commuters, or why overcrowding is bad, uncomfortable, stressful.
That development point seems really key for moving up the bands. It's not enough just to list things.
Not at Band 7 and above, no. You need to show you can elaborate on your ideas, even briefly.
Okay. So for our listeners who are maybe just starting out or looking for some quick wins, what are, say, 3 to 5 really practical, actionable tips you'd give them right now for improving their IELTS speaking?
All right, some quick tips for immediate focus. 1, be specific. Instead of just cost, try ticket prices or fares. Instead of bad, use words like uncomfortable, stressful, unsafe, inconvenient. Think specific impact.
Okay, specificity. Got it.
2, vary your connectors. That word so is useful, but don't lean on it too heavily. Practice using alternatives like as a result, because of this, which means consequently, therefore. Even simple ones like and, but also.
Right, mix up the linking words. Makes sense.
3, nail those articles. There are lots of resources online. It's often small errors here that mark an answer as less fluent.
Small words, big impact.
Yep.
Okay.
4, practice explaining why. For every point you make, ask yourself, why is this a disadvantage? Or, can I give a quick example? Even one short sentence of explanation makes a huge difference. Turn "it's crowded" into "it's crowded," which makes it really uncomfortable during the morning commute.
Explain the why, like adding that bit of mortar you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. And maybe 5, keep ideas clear and concise, especially at first. Don't try to make overly long or complicated sentences if you're not comfortable. Short, clear sentences are much better than long, confusing ones with grammatical errors.
Yeah.
Build complexity gradually.
Simple and clear is better than complex and wrong. Good advice.